What's going on, guys? I'm just doing some online training, and I noticed there was a TSB here for what is it? SSM 51 247. Some 2020 to 2022 Explorers with a 2.3-liter engine may exhibit a malfunction indicator lamp with multiple diagnostic codes. What's up, man? What's going on? There's a connector. It says this may be due to the wiring harness connection at connector C1198 on the driver's side lower frame underneath the brake lines. Good morning, Gary. What's up, Wild Bill? Inspect the connector wiring harness for any damage or poor pin fitment concerns. What's up with the Coyote knock? You're running 87 octane in a vehicle that's designed to run 93, and the manufacturer tries to control timing to mitigate the amount of compression that's in that engine. 90% of the engine issues come to fuel related concerns, and people try to run 87 in it, and it doesn't fix the problem. But when they go to a higher octane fuel, all of a sudden a lot of the noises and stuff go away. So, what's up? What's going on, guys? Frederick, Pro for Guns. What's up, Donut Dan? Merry Christmas. Um, this connector, it says underneath the brake lines that route near the electric brake booster. Prior to replacement of any harness as necessary if no damage to the pin fitment. So it says connector. What did this guy say? But it's coming from the bottom of the motor. Yeah, I mean, try it. I mean, what are you gonna do? Try it. Try to increase the octane. Run it out of 87 and put some good fuel in it and see if it goes away. Start there first. That does make some, like you said, it does make very specific noises that don't have to do with fuel, but that's been since 2011. Ford has said that's a normal characteristic of that engine since 2011. That there's no reason to diagnose anything. It's just what that engine does. If you don't like it, then you got to sell the vehicle and get another one. Mine is a 2015 Gen 2 Coyote, and it still has a little bit of a tick tap knock every once in a while on cold start. And then after it warms up, it goes away a little bit, but every once in a while I'll hear it come back. So it's got the typewriter tick, the little uh, labor knock every once in a while, but it's not as bad as these newer ones. These newer ones that make more power they're pretty noisy sometimes. But that's normal. You're not going to get rid of it. Merry Christmas, guys. Yeah, fuel prices are starting to come down. The only issue that I see is 87 is coming down really quick, but like 91, 93, it's still staying pretty high. I mean, 87, I just put 87 in the 15 F-150, and it went from $120 or what was it, 117 or $120 a tank, and I spent, it's a 36 gallon tank. I put 30 gallons in it, and it cost me about 87 bucks. Fuel went from like 320 down to 315 down to 3, then 295, and I think it's like at 288 to 291 around me now. So fuel prices really came. What's the fuel prices by you guys? What are you guys paying for gasoline and diesel? And I think E85 went down to like 250 a gallon, 260 a gallon in some places. I want to see this connector on this 2.3 liter. It says 2020 to 2022 Explorer with uh, engine codes P04F0, P008, P008A, P0451, P0455, P0456, P0496, and P0187. It's connector number C1198 on the driver's side lower frame under the brake lines that route to the electric brake booster. C1198. So what I've been doing is I've been just home doing all my online training stuff. Connectors. I'm not looking at the screen right now, so if you guys are asking questions with me looking away, you're gonna have to ask them again. C1198. Electronic engine controls on the 2.3 liter. C1198. Yeah, it's not letting me pull up the pictures. Hmm. That's that's not good. What do we got for today? 22 to 23 Explorer no longer equipped with a hands-free liftgate system built on or after 28 May of 22. 22 to 23 Explorers built on or after 28 May of 22 are no longer equipped with a hands-free liftgate system. The vehicle is not misbuilt. The addition of any new parts is not warrantable. Do not submit for claim for this condition. You are not getting hands-free liftgate opening on your 22 to 23 Explorer built after May 28 of 22. It's just not an option anymore. Wow, that's crazy. 115. Where in the heck are you at for $1.15? What do you think about running lacquer thinner to clean a cat? I don't know nothing about that. I've never tried that stuff. Should the water pump for the Taurus Explorer be changed as a precaution after 200,000 kilometers? I don't do kilometers, so I don't know what the conversion is. I do miles. Right at about 120,000 miles is when they typically start giving you problems. So you can be preventative and do something about it ahead of time. But with a Taurus and Explorer, the old body style, the 2011 to 2019, were behind the front cover, and it's like a $2,700 to $3,400 job. And while you're there, you may as well do it all. You may as well do the chain and as many guides as you can. Go ahead and do the VCT actuators if you can afford it. Throw a water pump and stuff in there. Just do it all while you're there. Do everything. Um, is a newer Explorer with the 3.5 EcoBoost worth the jump from a 2016 Taurus SHO? Worried about the PTU and internal water pump? Well, newer Explorers, you mean newer than 2016? It's pretty much going to be the same all the way to 2019. In 2020, it changed to a 3.0 liter twin turbo with an actual transfer case. So it's got a real transfer case. It's got a transfer case in a small gearbox, and it's a CV axle on the driver's side that goes through a hub actuator that transfers into the front of the oil pan that has a pass through that goes to a small gearbox on the driver's side, or the passenger side of the oil pan, that has a drive shaft that leaves that and goes back to the actual transfer case. The new systems seem to work a little better in four-wheel drive, and it actually has like trans fluid lubricating the transfer case and gear oil in the front, but they're having a lot of leaking problems where the hub actuator is for the four-wheel drive, and uh, I would have to say I'd rather have the power transfer unit versus the new four-wheel drive system, just for the simple fact that I know how to service and work on the power transfer units, mm, just like I do the new ones. Don't get me wrong, but I'd have to pick the old system, to be honest with you, just for the simple fact that the new ones just have so much going on. And there's just so much wind up. It sounds like chains moving and stuff underneath when the four-wheel drive is engaged in the new Explorers. It's just, it's, to me, it's not appealing at all. They used to not have a service kit for the output shaft seal of the transfer case, so whenever the output shaft seal was leaking, you'd have to replace the whole entire transfer case because it was supposed to be installed internally. But they actually came up with a seal and a procedure to actually remove the seal from the front and reinstall a new seal. So now on the new 2020 and above Explorers, there actually is a service kit for the front seal now. 5.0 is better than the 3.5 liter V. I mean, I think you meant 3.5 liter. Yeah, it is. Except for the 2018 to 2020 F-150, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost was better than all of them. 2003 Ford Ranger 3.0, after full brake, ABS kicks on intermittently when slowing to a stop under 5 mile an hour. The ABS light does not come on when the ABS fuse is taken out. The truck stops great. You go around and check all your tone rings and all your sensors. Make sure the tone rings aren't cracked, they're not wore out, and the sensors are good. You're going to have to actually pull on the wires. You're going to have to, you're getting an intermittent loss here. And one of your sensors could be wore out, so whenever there's a high braking event, the magnetic field is having to pick up. It could be getting hot and breaking that signal, causing erratic issues. Now, on my town car, 2006, whenever I'd first come to a stop, after I first bought the car, I get this little pulsation braking event, like the ABS was wanting to kick in, and it would happen just for a split second. And I never could get a code to set. I couldn't get the ABS to act up. I couldn't get anything to act up, but it would have a quick pulsation of the solenoids inside the ABS module. And I took some water and I sprinkled it all over an area in the back lot, and I got it real nice and wet, like a 40-foot section. And I came around the corner real hard, and I stomped on the brakes, and I made that ABS actuation start and skid all the way across that wet pad, and you can hear the ABS solenoids kicking in. And once it got to drive pavement and picked back up, and all the wheels started going to the same speed, I heard a growling sound just for a moment on the front left wheel. I changed that wheel bearing assembly out with that ABS sensor and stuff all integrated through it. It quit doing it, never did it again. What are my thoughts on the direct injection 3.3 base motor for the F-150? It's not just, I thought it was dual injection on the 3.3 as well. On the new one, let me figure out real quick. The 3.3 is a phenomenal engine. Or maybe they called it sequential port. I got to look at it again. Let's just look at a 22 F-150 with a 3.3. Phenomenal setup, very reliable, easy to work on, external water pump, nothing major about it at all. Right around 300 horsepower, does everything you need it to do, has decent towing capacity. It's just a great truck. And the new base model trim levels are just as good as some of the nicer XLT or lower Lariat trim levels from back in the day. Very, very, very good setup. Very solid setup. Not having any real issues with them right now. So, very easy to maintain too. Extremely easy to maintain. Let's see. F-150 3.3 Duratec. Engine cooling 3.3 Duratec. Fuel charging and controls 3.3 Duratec. Description and operation. Component locations. Let's look here real quick. Throttle body, port injection fuel rail assembly, high pressure fuel pump, port injection or port fuel director, and direct injection fuel rail. So it's both port and direct injection on that model. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting direct injection for the optimization of uh, volumetric efficiency, as well as being able to supply power faster on demand, but also port injection to keep the backside of those valves and stuff clean, so you're not running into issues with um, valves getting hung open at high mileage and carbon buildup and nastiness there going on. I'm gonna have to fast forward. Yeah.
I'm going to the school. I'll be back.
Okay. What are you going there for?
Helping with the lunch.
Oh. Okay. New Bronco manual trans rattles at cold idle. Anyone else? Why does the Silverado shake at 75 mile an hour? Well, because it's a GM product. Any thoughts on the Bronco engines 2.3, 2.7? 2.3 seems to be pretty solid so far. Um, I've only had to reseal one front cover at low miles on a 2.3, which was pretty easy job. The 2.7 had a little bit of a hiccup there April of 21 where they had some valve hardening issues, but since then doesn't seem to be an extreme concern. They have had some issues with rattle on startup with some of the 2.7, the 3.0s, and the 3.3s across the board. I mean, I'm talking the Explorers, the Broncos. I've seen one F-150 with 19,000 miles on it, a new 21 with a 2.7 EcoBoost that rattled on startup pretty bad. So that stuff is starting all over again. They've got some service messages out to basically go through and replace the phasers on them. So it's kind of a rough situation right now. What would be some nice rear shocks that will provide real nice hideaway? Right? I mean, ranchos. You can get ranchos, or you can. I don't know, Tony. I'm not sure. Um, the doctor still has. I went to. I didn't want to. I didn't really want to bring this up, but I'm not doing too good. I went through the workman's comp chain, which sent me to a physician's immediate care on my knee. And let me pause right there for a second because this is going to be a sensitive subject for me. Shock wise, I like Bilsteins. Or are they like the 5100 series? But they're more for like, aren't they more for like towing or campers, like loading up the truck a lot? If you guys wouldn't mind, there's 83 people on here and there's only 29 thumbs up. This helps the video get out when everybody participates. If you like the content and answering questions, please do so. I know a lot of people like the old school classic ranchos, but a lot of guys lately have just been going Fox. They've been finding the most success with Fox so far, and Bilstein. Those two, pretty common for those two to be run, and guys really like the quality of the ride. Um, as for what's up, Brian? As for my knee, they ran me through the chain of physicians immediate care. Come back in a week. Here's a shot. Come back in a week. Go get an MRI. MRI didn't show anything but maybe a thinned ACL, some inflammation and stuff in the joints. X-ray didn't show anything. It showed everything was fine. Uh, then the doctor, I go back again, and I'm still telling this dude, man, this thing is clicking, it's swelling up, it's getting sore and stuff like that. And he says, unfortunately, at this clinic, I can't do anything else for you no more. I got to discharge you from this clinic. There's nothing else I can do for you because we're not a specialist. So they discharged me, give me discharge paperwork. I call my workman's comp girl, and she says no. Go to a specialist. It's approved. Go see a specialist. Go pick the specialist that you want, and I'll just approve it. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. It's all paid for by us. So I went to a facility called Barrington Orthopedic. They're very, very good. They're very well. They're known for their very, very good work. And I went there. They got me in the room within 10 minutes. The doc kind of felt around and figured out some of what was going on before he even seen the X-ray. And then he told the X-ray tech, "I want a weighted X-ray on his knees. I want him to stand in front of the machine and do it weighted with all his weight on his knees. I need an X-ray." So they did the X-ray with me standing on it and one X-ray laying down, and it was clear as day. The image that came back, they said you have basically you need a left knee total replacement is where you're at. The arthritis in your knee is built up and almost plugged up the joint completely. The clicking and popping that's going on was probably asymptomatic before and there was no real issue. But when that guy at work fell into you and impacted your knee and pushed your knee backwards, some of that arthritis dislodged and it's floating around inside the knee, causing some pain. And if you stay at the same weight that you're at now, probably within a year, maybe two max, you're going to need a total knee replacement. Your left knee is completely gone. There's almost no room. There's no, on your right knee, you got this nice symmetrical gap all the way in between, nice and healthy. On your left knee, it's completely flat and the bone has shifted and it's causing a wear spot in the lower portion and it's arthritis built up all the way through. If you lose the weight and you start getting healthier and stuff now, maybe 4 years, you can push it out to about 5 years, but you're going to end up having, you probably got about a good 5 years if you start getting healthy now, that you're going to have a total knee replacement. And from this point on, because of the aggravation of the guy falling into you at work, you're probably going to be in pain every single day. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get any more comfortable. The only way that you're going to be able to fix this, or not fix it, but make yourself feel any better, is you got to start losing weight. You got to start going to the gym. And I was like, dude, wow. How am I supposed to carry on doing what I do every single day in this profession? That even when I get healthy and being on this concrete and stuff every single day, by the time I'm 40 years old, I'm going to need a total knee replacement, and then it's going to take me almost an entire year to recover from it. And then the doc was like, yeah, and then after that, about every 10 years, you're going to have to get the total knee replacement replaced again. They don't last forever. And he said, you're at that point now where you try to deal with what you have as long as possible before we have to go in there and remove everything. So when I left, he said, so from here forward, since the steroid injections, I already changed my diet. I went and bought like these massive bags of broccoli and cauliflower and went and got some animal based vitamin D that the doctor prescribed me because she said the veggie based stuff that they had, the more fluff stuff, it's not really that great. She said, I want more of the animal based calcium and vitamin D going in you. So I've ordered a clinical strength supplement of the good stuff that penetrates the bone and stuff better. And she said, I don't want you to be afraid of red meat. I don't want you to be afraid of chicken or any of that stuff. You got to eat all that stuff. It's all supposed to be part of a healthy diet. It's just you really have to start focusing on staying with it once you get on it. So I went out and bought like all these massive like bags of vegetables and cooked them all. And then I went and preset all my meals. We got all these big containers and stuff. I've already stacked everything in the fridge. I went back to the gym. I re-upped my membership at the gym. And I said, this if this isn't a wake up call, what is? I got to do something now. I can't take this for granted. This is my like last chance before something major happens. I went and got all my labs and stuff done at the VA. The VA came back with your LDL is perfect, your HDL is perfect, your cholesterol is fine, no pre-diabetes stuff, no health concerns. Everything on your lab panels looks, you're the healthiest fat guy that I've seen. You just are overweight and you got to lose at least a good 60, 75 pounds for us to feel comfortable with where you're at. You're super healthy. You have no medical problems, but your joints are going to shit because of your weight. So it's a hard pill to swallow. So I got down to about 255, 260 pounds before this COVID stuff happened, and then kind of started giving up, started getting more stressed, less business coming into the dealership, less less money being made at work, stressful things happening in my life, and I started making a bunch of excuses why I wanted to slow down. And here I am, gained most of the weight back, right back to where I started, and having to reset and start over. But this time I'm going to do it a little different. Uh, I'm going to make it to where it's more comfortable for me to be on the diet and not so much trying to follow somebody's nasty ass like meal plan or whatever. So it's just going to be healthy foods. And the doctor said that's what you need to do. You just need to eat healthy foods, eat until you're full. Don't follow no stupid diets or anything like that. Eat until you're full. Let your body tell you when it's done. Have some good food put away in the fridge and everything. So if you get hungry, you want to snack on something, go grab a cup of broccoli. Go grab a cup of steak or a cup of chicken or something like that with some quinoa or whatever. Eat the things that your body is receptive to, and just don't let yourself go hungry, and your body will actually start taking care of itself. So uh, I don't know. So it sucks because now you have to think about, I'm going to go back to work when all this is over, because I'm waiting on a gel injection approval for my knee is what the doctor wants to do. He said, I want to start you out with a gel injection. It lasts longer and it does create a little bit more comfort for you. And basically, you're going to have to grind it out, dude. It's going to hurt. You're going to go back to work. You're going to be on your knee. It's going to swell up. It's going to get very uncomfortable. Maybe something that you have to think about maybe stepping away from for a while. So it's I don't know. Yeah, I did the keto thing for a while, guys. I really love it. I love being on the keto diet. I was the most successful with it. I felt the best off of it. It really, really made me feel great, like $1,000,000. So I'm going back to doing a form of that, except there's some little things I'm going to add in, so I don't feel completely deprived. But that's kind of where I'm going back, is right back in that direction. Um, yeah, I quit any of the. She came in here last night, and my lady came in here last night, and she said, I'm gonna make one of those KFC bowls with like the popcorn chicken and the potatoes and the corn and the gravy and everything. Do you want some?" And I said, "Honey, I can't do that. You know that. I can't eat that stuff. Yeah, it might be comfort food for you and Jenna or whatever, but I got to eat healthy." So she said, "You want me to grab you one of your pre-made dinners in the fridge and heat it up for you?" And I said, "Please. That's what I need. That's why that stuff is in there. I'll go in there and do it. I mean, I don't need you to do it for me, and I'll come sit down and eat with you guys, but I can't eat what you guys are eating. I just can't do it anymore. You have to be in my corner to help me. You have to be there with me to support me in this. I can't participate in the way you guys eat. I just can't do it." Um, yeah. That's what the doctor said, Ryan. Is lots of protein. Don't be afraid of animal fats. It's all natural for you. A lot of the new studies over the last couple of years have shown that saturated fats really don't do what the medical industry claims. The VA stays on top of a lot of that stuff, and they noticed that a lot of people that cut out natural fats have a lot more depression problems, a lot more hormone problems. So if you're eating vegetables without all the sugars and breadings and stuff, and meat without all the sugars and breadings and stuff, your body will pretty much start taking care of itself. So that's where I'm going back to. Um, the salt only seems to be a problem when you're having excessive amounts of sugar and carbs. I don't salt is, if you think about it, 1850, early 1800s, probably, you know, uh, maybe even earlier than that. Most of the way that we preserved meat and stuff and our food and stuff was in salt. Everything was smothered in salt and put away in the salt lockers. People had upwards of 8 to 12,000 milligrams of sodium per day, and they were some of the healthiest people around. Their body types were completely different than ours. Why? Because they didn't have all the processed foods and stuff that we do. They could handle that. That sodium is all part of how your body reacts. The sodium potassium pump, the way your muscles expand and contract and stay, that pumped feeling that you feel when you're in the gym. And you hear bodybuilders talk about all the time, I'm trying to chase that pump. And it's a natural reaction that the body has the muscles are being engorged with blood, and the reaction between sodium and potassium. It's not bad if you know how to use it correctly. I don't agree with that, Jack. So if I took your theory of sugars and carbs themselves don't make you fat, you just need to be in a caloric deficit. You just need to eat in moderation. I would have to disagree with that. Calories in versus calories out is a very, very inaccurate measure of how a person's body works, because in your theory, calories in versus calories out, I could take 100 grams of Skittles and eat them, and you're telling me that I if I ate 100 grams of Skittles versus 100 grams of steak, and the calories were the same, let's just say we figured out what calories were the same, that I could essentially increase or decrease and be in a deficit, and my body would lose, and it would be just as healthy. That doesn't work that way. Caloric deficits aren't necessarily the builder to anything or the loss of anything. A lot of times people have been in a caloric deficit for so long and they've been eating such garbage food. Do you think a person that's 400 pounds has a caloric deficit of 2,000 calories? No. The healthy caloric deficit of somebody that's like 400 pounds might be like 4,100 calories a day starting out when they first get on their diet. And then they taper it down, and then taper it down, and then taper it down as they're losing. But that person has been on a caloric deficit for how long, eating McDonald's and Wendy's and everything else. They're not always going to achieve that 4 or 5,000 calories a day in fast foods. They might see 26, 27, 2,800, 3,000 calories of fast food every single day. They're in a caloric deficit. By your model, they should lose weight. But it doesn't happen. Why? Because that food is not the same as eating healthy food. I could eat 5,000 calories of steak and broccoli and chicken and everything else that's pumped full of natural vitamins and things that my body can build itself off of, versus 3,000 calories in a caloric deficit off fast food. And I would react better to the 5,000 calories and be healthier off the 5,000 calories than the 3,000 calories. So, calories in versus calories out is a very inaccurate way to look at anybody's body and how you should be healthy. Uh, Praying. What's the best way to go about finding a 6R80 lead frame? Just pray. Good luck to you is all I can say. You're not going to find one. Or if you do find one through Napa, you might go through two or three before you get a good one. Is there a way to talk you in detail about process for Ford to replace oil consumption 5 liter? Well, I'm not sure. Well, Greg asked that question a little bit better because you didn't really type that very clearly for me. Well, Greg, I understand what you're saying, but you've got to be more precise with how you're explaining things, because you lead people astray by leaving it so vague. Carbs in nature are available in the fall during a starving season, winter, and are pretty rare in nature. But those carbs that people did get were not from what we eat them from. It's a completely different time. The nutrition that we eat is a completely different type of nutrition. And the plate has changed so many times since then that it's not even the same. The data should be updated, and how we study health and stuff should be updated. But yet none of that has been updated either. And when you look at the food groups and the pyramids and the recommendations of where they come from, if you follow the money trail, it all leads back to big pharma. So you tell me that the information that you've been taught or learned from somebody is not bought and paid for, because I'll tell you that's wrong. It has. There's a reason why most of the big names that are actually on the food pyramids or behind what their recommendations are not from independent doctors or naturopaths or something like that, or people that study this stuff. It's from pharmaceutical companies. You got to think big, man. So I've explained that, Greg. I already have videos talking about that. I have so many videos talking about that. it's like the constant repeat game of this. And I understand it's part of being a social media influencer, but you can't make everybody happy. That's why I always refer people to the library. That's why I always refer people to go back and look at the videos on the 5 liters in oil consumption and sit there and just block that time out and do your research. Watch the videos. And may not every single thing that's being said pertain to what you're dealing with, but that's part of the price you pay for having somebody give you free information. What they want you to do is they want you to bring the truck in the stall, pull the plugs out. They want you to spin the engine over, several times after it's been sitting there and it gets cold. Spin the engine over a couple times and actually look at the cylinder walls. And if the cylinder walls have oil all over them, then you have a oil control ring cylinder wall problem. If you can put a bore scope down inside the cylinder with a side view camera, you can look up at the back of the valves, and the valves are dry, but the cylinders are wet with oil, then you have got an oil consumption problem. You have got a ring to block sealing problem. The problem is the short block, which now it needs an engine. Now it needs an engine, but the short blocks are not available. Now it needs an engine, but the propane engines are no longer available. So now you got to be put on a wait list, and you're probably going to wait 6 months, 6 to 12 months for an engine. No, Sammy, you must not be following everything that's going on. I've been off on medical leave for right at a week now. So, no, I'm not that lucky. I hurt my knee at work. Opinions on the 2009 to 2013 Shelby GT500, thinking about getting one. Honestly, there's a part of me that is very near and dear to that body style and that setup. I don't know why I like that setup so much, but I'm so attracted to that 5.4 4 valve setup and the potential for that to make power. The only thing I didn't like about that Shelby was when you drive that Shelby, the power is there, and the supercharger sounds absolutely phenomenal. And when I go out and we get these trade-ins and I get to drive them and I get to rip those things around, it's like, it's like that freaking that noise and that sound from that supercharger is just ah, it is just absolutely amazing. But I don't like the how rickety and clattery the suspension is in those. It's just awful. The noise and the clattering is coming from underneath the vehicle and the support of the vehicle in general. So I'd have to say I love those. Probably one of my favorite ones, but I don't like how chintzy it seems the setup is for the um, suspension. You really can't prevent lead frame failure. I mean, it's kind of like yeah, it's kind of, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Yeah, my knee. And then basically, when you document your 5 liter oil consumption issue, Greg, they're going to want the tech to state in the write up there is visible oil seen on the cylinder walls. There may be even visible oil seen on the backside of the valves. But they're going to ask you some questions first. They're going to say, did you perform the TSBs? Hopefully, you perform the TSB where you update the PCM, and for the 18 model, you put the longer dipstick in there with the wider window so you can monitor oil consumption more. Um, and then the 19 and 20 model already had the longer dipstick in it. You just have to put the PCM programming in that to open the throttle body and decel events. You're going to have to annotate all TSBs performed, visual oil seen on cylinder walls after letting engine sit in stall and get cold, rotating engine over several times, monitoring the look of cylinder walls and pooling of oil seen on cylinder walls, Nothing on the back of valves. If there is something on the back of the valves, they're going to say, well, you either have a valve seal issue or you have a PCV issue. Did you make sure you pulled your lines off of your PCV system and inspected the PCV lines to make sure nothing was pulling up inside the PCV lines? Because maybe your oil consumption on one out of, every 100 trucks is a PCV issue. You got a bad valve and it's not fluttering, it's not doing its thing, and now you've got, or one's stuck open and it's just pulling up oil through the PCV system that ends up getting pulled back through the intake. So they want to see that complete job from start to finish. You checked PCV, you did TSBs, you rotated the engine over, you looked at the back of the valves, you looked at the cylinder walls, and then they're going to come back with, you know what? Yes, that does look like that is an oil consumption problem. Yes, it does look like you have a block to compress or a oil control ring, piston ring problem. You need a new engine. You need at least a new short block, but there's no short blocks available, so you're going to have to put in for an engine. And then you're going to have to run smart cost cap analysis on the bottom of the main page whenever you put in your VIN number and stuff. You got to go down to smart cost cap analysis, and then you got to put in all the things that you need, and it's going to tell you to either replace the whole entire engine or just do the short block with the miscellaneous parts that you need because of the labor and the teardown and the unavailable status of the short block. It says replace engine, but then when you go to order the engine, it says the engine's obsolete, and then you have to escalate it through hotline and then warranty approval, and it's just a nightmare right now. Or if the technician was smart, he would learn the amount of power that he actually has and put in a request status to hotline and say, look, this is what I'm dealing with. I've performed the necessary steps for diagnostics. I've done the TSBs. I've done all this stuff. The engine's saying obsolete because it's unavailable right now. We're waiting upwards of 6 months to 12 months to get the customer their vehicle back. I'm requesting approval, or don't even say I'm requesting approval. Say I'm going to take it upon myself to pull the engine out of this truck and take the short block apart, take it all the way down to a short block, and I'm going to have the blocks sent off to a machine shop, and I'm going to have them put the right piston rings in there for this application, and I'm going to have the short block sleeved and have this plasma stuff blown out of there, and then put new piston rings, new oil control ring, put this engine back together with new gaskets, new exhaust manifolds, studs, and everything, and get the customer back in their vehicle and do it the right way so there's no more oil consumption. If you write that up correctly and you go through the necessary chain of keeping everybody informed that that's what you're going to do, they can't say no because customer satisfaction has to be number one. And the technician does have the availability in an extreme situation where you cannot get the part to fix the customer's vehicle to make that call to do it yourself. You just have to find a dealer that has a big enough facility that when they down your vehicle, it's going to be taking up space that they're going to need a technician to make money in that space. So hopefully it's a big enough facility where they can push the vehicle off to the side or pull the engine and stuff out and push your truck outside and then tear the engine down, get the block serviced with sleeves and new piston rings and everything and get it all put back together and that truck not take up space. Typically with the smaller dealerships that don't have a lot of room and stuff like that or the experience to do that type of stuff, you're going to have a harder time getting service. "2015, I don't think so. I don't think a 2015. Let me see here. I don't believe it does have intake manifold runner control. 2015 F250. Let's look at the engine and let's look at intake air distribution and filtering, description and operation. Intake manifold. Intake manifold 6.2 liter. It does not look like it has it. No, I don't see the solenoid on the back of the intake manifold there. Let me show you real quick. Here it is. Hold on. Yeah, there's nothing there. No IMRC. I think the first year for the IMRC was it 2017 or 17? Why do I want to say it's 17? Let's try 16 and see if it shows it. Um, what is this? Is there a updated slip yoke part number to replace the yoke on the one piece shaft so it doesn't slip bump into the transfer case? 2001. I don't know. You have to get a hold of your local dealership and run that all through them. I don't have access to a parts catalog here like some techs do. Some techs were put in early on by their management team of their parts department to give them access to certain things like our uh, Aiden, you're gonna have to ask me in a second. I'm gonna miss your comment right now because I'm already on a train of thought and I'm already looking for something here. Um, but anyway, I don't have access to our parts catalog like our trans guy does. He can go in there and he could figure out anything he wants inside that trans and see what's updated, what's not. I can't do all that on here. So when you guys ask specific questions like that, I don't have access to that stuff readily available. It's just not something that I have. Options on putting a larger fuel tank. I'm sure there is. I'm not I I'm not a guy that does a lot of modifications and stuff to these trucks like that. Um, Aaron from Power Stroke Tech Talk, one of our buddies, he does a lot of that stuff, but he does it on newer stuff. I'm sure there's an option. I'm sure there's a company that makes a direct fit. Can the Ford dealer calibrate the Blue Cruise system? If they can, what is involved in doing the calibration? My truck drives to the left. Well, they can. I don't know what is involved in that because I haven't had to do that yet. Okay, let's see. I want to see intake. Come on. I want to see if the 16 was the first year for that. 17 I thought was. It looks like 16 is the same. I don't see any IMRC control at all. Let's go look at 17. I'm pretty sure it was 17 when it changed. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I think it's 17. Yeah. Disconnect the left hand, disconnect the wiring, electrical connectors, and retainers for the IMRC vacuum diaphragm. Disconnect vacuum hoses from valve on intake manifold. Use general equipment. And it's that valve that I tell you guys when you're trying to diagnose the ticking tapping sound on a 6.2 liter and it sounds like it's a lower engine knock or lower engine tap. And I tell you guys to disconnect the solenoid on the throttle body area that's on the passenger side of the intake manifold on the 6.2 liters. This is where it's at. See, this is the part that comes underneath the cowl, and there's that vacuum solenoid that goes back there to that diaphragm. And when you disconnect that solenoid or unplug it or pull one of the vacuum lines off of it, it takes vacuum away from that IMRC back there, and all of a sudden the truck starts running normal with no ticking and tapping and stuff going on. I can show you messages on social media where guys that work in shops have replaced $10,000, $12,000 engines on these things and then put everything back together and send me a message saying, dude, you saved my ass because I just put an engine in this customer's vehicle and that tapping was still there. And I watched your video online and I unplugged that solenoid right there on the passenger side of the intake manifold and it quit. So I ordered a $700 manifold for it and we just ate it because we just put a brand new engine in this guy's truck and that wasn't the problem. It was that IMRC malfunctioning inside that intake manifold. What else we got going on here? Guesstimate on the new key. Yep, not a problem. Guesstimate on the new key, on new key price. I have the master key for my key. New key is about $175 is what they're running. About $175 to $200. Some of the nicer higher end keys are like $225 a key. 16 F550 6.7 chassis cab. All of a sudden the fuel gauge is reading quarter lower than it should. Still reads and raises after filled. Just always a quarter lower than really. Corroded connect. Could be corroded connectors. It could be something's wrong with that float though inside that tank. And I don't know if you have on that chassis cab. Are you did you guys have to relocate where that tank and stuff is mounted, or did you leave it in the factory location? Like it's probably not easy to get in there, right? That might be a question for Aaron. We can always get a hold of Aaron and see what he says about that too. Does your warranty get void if you update your turbo on your new F-150? Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if somebody wanted to be a jerk about it, of course, yes, you couldn't have your warranty voided because you're changing the way the vehicle operates from factory. 2012 blower motor only works on high. You need a blower motor resistor. Sits back there behind everything. So the blower motor resistor, I'll show you real quick. The blower motor resistor has 4 different circuits to it, but a series of different resistors inside that housing. The high side of the circuit has its own independent direct line. So when you put it on high, it's direct 12 volts. But when you put it in the different modes, it runs through a separate section. High is the fail-safe when the resistor goes bad. So you need a new blower motor resistor assembly. And they're not hard to install at all. And it will fix your problem 99.9% of the time. So let's look at blower motor resistor. Blower motor. Blower motor resistor. Removal and installation, climate control. And then it's super easy to get to this blower motor resistor. Let me pull it up real quick for you. When you drop the glove box and everything, it's this plugs right into the housing. And it's just like an 8 mil there and an 8 mil there. And then that sensor pops out of there. And you just literally clean up the area, put a new sensor back in, put your 8 mils back in, and then plug that connector back in. And that fixed your problem. Though these are known for going bad because they're poorly designed blower motor resistors. It's right behind the glove box. Plugs right into the HVAC box. Um, Hello, I was just looking up possible common leaks on my late 99 F357-3. I was driving this morning and white smoke was billowing from under the truck. Oh, buddy, I don't do a lot of 7.3s. I can tell you that. Um, I would start pressurizing your coolant system. Go to Harbor Freight and get a coolant pressure tester. And if it's not coming from inside the engine, like out the tailpipe, and it's coming from it burning off the engine, you're just going to have to start looking for leaks. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't work on a lot of 7.3s anymore, so I can't give you all the answers on that. 16 escape, 1.6 PO234 overboost. There's only a couple things it's going to be. Overboost conditioning means that there's some kind of lack of control, right? And when there's some kind of lack of control, it's either there's two different solenoids on that engine, I believe, and one is on top by the valve cover area, and then one is underneath down by the turbo. Those two need to work in unison with each other to control how that turbo works, right? So in order for it to dump and then build and then dump and then build and then dump and then build, those two solenoids have to be good. I found a lot of times those vacuum lines going to those solenoids are cracked or ripped open and nobody ever checks them. The solenoids themselves, they sit in heat all the time and they degrade over time and stop working properly. And then inside the turbo itself, a lot of times the wastegate assembly and that mechanism that actually opens and closes whenever pressure needs to be released or it needs to waste and vent off, it basically malfunctions. So there's only a few possibilities. You have to choose where you want to start. Um, Ray says, I'm back again, wondering why my wife's 16 Ford Escape titanium main GPS camera sync screen sometimes goes black and freezes up and becomes non-responsive. It's because it's got a junk accessory protocol interface module on it. They're all junk. It's like a seven to $1,000 module that goes on the back that we got to pull off, and then we got to put a new one on, and then we'll program it. It lasts a few years, and the same thing happens all over again. And plus, on top of that, most women have a bunch of crap in their phone anyway that's just completely plugging shit up. And then they sync their library and stuff into the radio module and it jams up the module. Or they're trying to play two or three different four things at one time and back and forth, and it jams up the modules. So then you got to spend $1,000 and then an hour and a half to 2 hours of install to have that accessory protocol interface module pulled off of there and then reinstalled and put back on. And all of a sudden your problems go away for a couple years and then they're right back again. So if I was you, I would go to settings, I would go under general, I would scroll down to the bottom, I would master reset the vehicle if it will let you master reset, clear everything out of there and tell her to keep her phone out of the system completely. Don't even sync the phone to Bluetooth back up. If you got to call me or talk to me, you got to pull over or wait till you get home. Because that's a little bit of a band-aid temporarily, if it even works. You may have to push the seek right and eject button at the same time, or the seek right and power button at the same time, or the seek right and it's normally the seek right and eject button. So button right eject or button right and power, and it will pull up a diag screen and it'll do an audible tone test. And then you can go into different settings in there and actually reset different things through your screen. If you can't get into that and it jams up and it goes slow on you and it doesn't want to respond and it won't master reset, you need a new APIM. Your APIM, your accessory protocol interface module, screwed, and it's going to cost you about $1,000 to fix it. Fix It Danner. Is the Fix It Danner name a supplement to the Scanner Danner name? Any updates on the reliability of the 1.5 liter 3-cylinder EcoBoost? Yeah, it's not looking so good for it right now. Reliability, yes. But now we have a safety message out for a possible update that's coming up in the future for cracked fuel injectors that are causing underhood fires. So that should be coming out soon, and that is in the library on the channel, so you can check that out. 1.5 liter SE Fusion on the same day the engine block went, and now we're getting it replaced. Sucks a lot because we had no idea about the engine block, but it's a lesson. Here's what I want you to do. Listen to me very carefully. Blackjack, I'm talking to you. Listen to me very, very carefully. You're getting a new engine. Do not take this for granted now. That is a very, 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 very dirty engine. Let me just tell you right now, it is a very dirty engine. So, change the oil by like every 4,000 or 5,000 miles. No more than that. I don't care what your reasons are, what you heard from, or whoever it is. If you're doing a lot of in-town driving, 3,000 miles. A little bit of a mix from in-town and on the highway, 4,000 miles. On the highway and that thing's moving oil all the time, 5,000 miles and no more. Do not go more than 5,000 miles and follow that service interval right there that I just gave you. The coolant in that thing changed every 30,000 miles. I don't want to hear anything else about it. I'm telling you right now how to keep that thing healthy when you put a new engine in it. Coolant every 30, 40,000 miles max. If it has an all-wheel drive unit every 20,000 miles, drain the PTU, fill it back up. I think in that one it's like 75, 140 gear oil. Pull out your book. It says in the back of your owner's manual what's supposed to go in there. Run an OE filter, run OE or better oil, and I would suggest about every 3 oil changes, 2 to 3 oil changes, have them run a BG EPR service through that. It's a very dirty engine. BG EPR is a engine flush cleaner, or you can get it yourself and do it yourself. Do not take this for granted. I'm telling you right now. Do not take it for granted. That is one of the most dirty turbocharged 4-cylinders I've ever seen in my life. They're peppy and they run good and they get good fuel mileage, but you got to take care of them. About every 40,000 miles, change the plugs. Pull the plugs, change the plugs. If you can start cracking the plugs loose right at about 25, 30,000 miles, pull the ignition coil off, crack the plug loose, twist it a few times, torque it back down, go to the next one, crack it loose, torque it back down, the next one, put them back in. About 10,000 miles later, about 35,000 miles, do the same thing. Crack it loose, torque it down, crack it loose, torque it down. Takes you 5 minutes to do it. So don't even complain about it because I'm telling you ahead of time right now how you're going to get the most out of that engine. And right at about 40, have them changed or, change the plugs yourself. The problem is those plugs seize up in that cylinder head because nobody messes with them. Nobody does anything with them and they just sit there and they just bimetal corrosion, just corrosion in general. And you go to pull those plugs out of that cylinder head and then they don't come out. And now you're putting a cylinder head on it. Why more recall Ford? Why more recall Ford vehicle? Well, because Ford's having problems with recalls right now. I don't know what else do you want me to tell you? I can't answer that question. I'm not Ford corporate. And I'm not the engineers that's building the garbage that's being put out. Ford boss, I'm thinking of getting a Ford Maverick. Do you think the gas turbo EcoBoost motor is a good engine in terms of reliability? So far, it's been pretty sound so far. People have really liked it. Have a great day. Trouble. Appreciate you. My teenager younger brother just bought a 2.2 Ecotec Chevy Cobalt. Oh God. And it's his first used car. Thoughts on this engine or car? It can be a good engine if it's over maintenance, but most of those small 4-cylinder engines like that people don't take care of end up in a junkyard somewhere. They're very simple, very easy to maintain, but you're going to need to do the maintenance. The first thing I would do is I'd go through and do all the basic stuff. The plugs, the coolant, the oil. I'd go through and do all that. Put a good filter on it. Don't cheap out and go with some $3 Fram filter. I don't have a problem using Fram filters at all, but use the ones that you actually pay some money for. Don't put cheap oil in it. Don't do any of that crap. Tell your younger brother he's going to have to nut up and he's going to have to be a man. He's driving a vehicle now. He's obviously taking on responsibility. That's part of it. Put some decent oil in there. When I say decent oil, I don't mean going out and buying AMS oil. Go out and get some regular Pennzoil full synthetic, or get some Castrol Edge or some Valvoline Extended Performance. If you can afford a little some Ultra, some Pennzoil Ultra, do that. It's not expensive oil. I just seen oil the other day. It was like Valvoline Extended Performance, which is some of the best oil I've tested so far on the market. At Walmart was like $27.99 for the big giant jug, and then you could go over and get just a decent OE filter. Maybe not even an OE filter. Just get like a Wix filter or a nicer Fram filter or something like that for like $6-7, and don't cheap out on that engine. So change the basic stuff: plugs, coolant, um, good oil change. Make sure make sure on that is that the one? Is that little 2.2? Is that the one with the turbo or no? I forget which one. One of the little Ecotechs had the issue with. There's like a check valve that plugs up, and it causes the turbo to start leaking. Like I'm not a GM guy. I know enough about it to get my way around, but one of them I seen there was an issue where a friend of mine was dealing with online, and somebody asked him a question. It was one of them little Ecotechs. There's like a check valve or something in the intake manifold that ends up plugging up or locking up, and then it causes too much pressure, or something happens where the turbo starts leaking back by the turbo. Anyway, I'm not a GM guy, but that's what I would do. Okay. Uh, F-150 power boost problem showing up in the shop, Johnny. There's all kinds of like little recalls and all kinds of things that have happened that are in the library on this channel on the power boost, like the undershield falling and scraping the drive shaft, possibly causing grooves in the drive shaft, or the drive shaft to snap or separate. People saying on cold start, um, the 10R80 MHC, the transmission making noise. Now there's a new PCM reprogram. Of course, there's going to be little nuances with any of that, but anything major that I'm seeing that are causing them to shut down and fail and burn up on the road or anything, no, nothing like that. But there are little small problems that have been surfacing that I don't care to go into the entire history of right now. But yeah, they have their little quirks and nuances just like everything else. What's the normal oxygen sensor volt reading on a Ford Fusion 2013? Boss mine reads around 0.7 volts most of the time. Isn't 0.45 the perfect reading? No, it's not. 0.7 volts is optimal reading for downstream O2 sensor. That means it's actually doing its job. About 0.65 to zero point 0.8, that's where it normally will sit. '09 Escape with a 3.0 and 185. The engine appears to run well, but it has a shake felt in the steering wheel at idle. In the steering wheel at idle, it gets worse when the temperatures are below 40 degrees. How should I proceed? I don't get that. Why would you feel an engine shake in the steering wheel? Is it while idling? To me, motor mounts and everything are good. Plugs and everything are good. I mean, it's weird that you would feel it in the steering wheel while idling. You have to be super sensitive to sit there and feel it stumble in the steering wheel. I would almost have to question, is it the vehicle or is it you? Are you that sensitive to feeling things that you actually have an issue with that because it's your vehicle? You know something's there. Where if somebody else got in it and sat there, they probably wouldn't feel the same thing that you did. In a situation like that, Carrie, I would have to almost say that you're the issue, not the car. I don't know. All the four-cylinder EcoBoost should have an oil exchange every. Okay, you deleted it. Okay, you deleted that one too. Why are you deleting your comments? Are the plugs going? Are the plugs going to want to break on our 2011 Ranger 4-liter? I don't think so. I never really had a problem with those. I got them a little warm, 130, 140 degrees, pull the plugs right out of them. Never really had a problem with those. What about people who go to UTI for free just because their daddy is an instructor at Fort Voss? Ryan, Can somebody get rid of Ryan? Block him from the channel completely. This is a troll that doesn't like Cody. And he comes on, he keeps creating these different names and he keeps saying crap like this. Get rid of that guy. So with this new engine block, will I face any more problems with the engine? No. Blackjack. That's the reason why you're getting the new engine. It's been updated. Why would you face any more issues with that engine? It's are you okay, I'm not trying to be rude to you, Blackjack, but I've literally dumped hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of videos into this particular engine that you're literally asking questions about. I have a live stream where I literally dropped the engine out of the bottom of the vehicle and showed everybody with me live, me pulling the engine out and then disassembling it to show them all the little nuances and the changes between the engine. The only change between the two engines is it's a closed deck design now versus an open deck design. So there's no slit in between the cylinder walls. So they fixed that problem. That's the reason for the new updated block. And yes, you could have problems. You could run into issues. It is a boosted application. So yes, when you buy a turbocharged vehicle, you're asking for problems to happen because you're buying a more expensive vehicle and the or a more sophisticated vehicle, and yes, there are higher problems that could have happened with that particular vehicle. But should you just randomly have all these issues? Because no, not at all. I don't know if Cataclean works. I didn't get into. I don't get into that. Uh, my wife notices, and she would drive on a flat. Maybe your wife is the issue. Maybe it's time for a tune-up. Maybe it's time to look at motor mounts. Hi, Rich. 21 Mach-E stops charging after about 5 minutes. Won't charge again until the key is cycled. Any idea, or is there a TSP? Probably need to get it into the Ford dealer because if you're working on a 21 Mach-E, that ain't anything that you should be concerned with. You should be dropping that off at the Ford dealer saying, fix my stuff. I don't even want to know what's wrong with it. Fix it. Let's look. Let's see real quick while we're here, while we got the information. Mustang Mach-E. How do you guys feel being called a Mustang Mach-E? Oh, 18 Ford Interceptor 3.7. So I understand you say Interceptor. Just say Explorer. The Interceptor thing, I know it sounds cool, but you sometimes you confuse. Is it Explorer or is it a Taurus? That's what you need to say, not just Interceptor. Um, 3.7 can't hold idle, fluctuates up and down. New OEM plugs, 500 miles, no check engine light, no pending codes, runs. So first of all, you got to check for vacuum leaks. Um, then you're going to have to look at the throttle body, clean the throttle body. A lot of those throttle bodies were bad on those, and we did go through quite a few throttle bodies. Those trucks, some of those off of the truck from the manufacturer had bad throttle bodies on them, and we had to change them. So I would look at the basics first, not just plugs and all that stuff, because yeah, I get it, that this stuff's important, but I would look at the control side of, are there vacuum leaks? No vacuum leaks. You got new plugs, everything's good, not flagging any codes. I would be thinking something's wrong with the throttle body. You're welcome, Vanderpool. New engine, does the term looking a gift horse in the mouth have any meaning, right? 16 Explorer Platinum, 3.5 EcoBoost, water pump change intervals. I would say you're good there, Wes. That's a pretty decent time, 120,000 miles to change the water pump out on that, especially if you've never had any issues. And it's not a hard one. It's about an hour and a half labor, probably $250, $300 in parts. Is there issues with the Mach-E? Sure there is. There's all kinds of issues with these new electric vehicles. So yeah, let's not talk about the Mach-E. It's fast and it sells well, so I don't really care. I like that they are still making non-EV Mustangs. Of course, I love this new 500 horse black horse they're coming out with. Do you know how many pounds of boost most EcoBoost engines make? I don't know, 10 pounds, 8 pounds, 10 pounds. Opinions on the new 50 Mustang? Love it. I think it looks a little bit too much like a Camaro, but I absolutely love it. 50 water pump started leaking around 150,000 miles. Yeah, that's why it's good to do it about 120 is the normal interval. 13 Lexus LS 460, 47,000 miles, or keep the Lincoln TC. Tempted Lexus. 1,000% Lexus. It's going to cost a lot of money when it needs repaired, though. Okay, 03 F250 54 OBD1 with OBD2 inside scanner hookup. Error when doing cylinder balance test. Engine revs up and can't finish the test. Do I need to turn the wheel? Brake. Do I need to turn the wheel? Brake. So on as seen on OBD1. You're supposed to activate the overdrive, deactivate the overdrive, and something like that. Hit the brake, cycle the AC. There's a number of things you got to do, or else it won't complete it. 3.0 Power Stroke. There actually seem to be pretty good engines. The only thing that I worried about was the earlier model, like the first gen with the EGR cooler. But a lot of people have said they've come a long way since then. So like the 21 was the last year. I think 21 was the last year for the 3-liter Power Stroke. And a lot of guys like them. They don't really have a lot of problems with them at all. 22 Explorer 2.3 Quick Lube broke the square push pins and lost the center. Can you order the plastic push pins, or is the whole assembly shield? You can order just the pins. Go to your dealer, order just the pins. They have the pins available. My son's '08 Super Duty 5.4 in park. You rev up, RPMs drop slowly. You got some kind of restriction going on? Can you tell me about the new recall on 2020 Explorer ST? What recall? I mean, I don't know what recall that is. I have no idea. You got to give me more information than being so vague, and I can help you out when you ask your question right away. I did throttle body replacement too. How about mass airflow? Mass airflow will do that too. What do you think will come out of the lawsuits with the 5.0 oil consumption issue? I don't know. Nobody has shared the lawsuits with me. Let's see. Mach E. Driver. I don't even know what to look under. I have an 18 with a 5.0 10R80 with auxiliary water pump that does not show up in any repair manual, only shows up on the boosted engines. Ever seen this? 18 5.0 10R80 with an auxiliary water pump? Yes. I mean, you're talking about that little water pump that's kind of like up on the left side of the engine. Yeah, I mean, it's what do you want to know about that? Yeah, I've seen it. Uh, um, let's see here. Navigation, speed control. They told me I had to buy a whole $85 shield assembly to get 3 push pins from the Explorer. No, you don't have to do that. They're like they're like literally like 30 or 40 cents at the dealership. You can just go to the dealership, give them your VIN number, have them pull up the shield and say, order me a couple of those push pins. Get like a handful of them so you have some in the glove box. Transit, rear axle, flange, bolt, torque specs. Kevin, are you actually like turning? Are you looking for axle, flange, bolt, torque specs? Are we doing drive shaft to axle, or are we doing axle, flange? Axle, flange, axle, flange. So you're talking about the axle that goes through the hub assembly is what you're talking about. I think it was like, well, remind me, we'll look, but clarify this, that you're talking about the axle that goes through the actual rear end tube assembly. I thought it was like 45 or 50, 40, 45 foot-pounds or something like that. Oh, you replaced the rotors. Yeah, they're it's real low. Let me hold on a second, Kev. If you got a sec, let me look and see if there's a see if I can find this charging issue thing on here for one of our long-term subscribers here. I don't want to skip on him. I want to make sure he's taken care of because he's been here for a while. So, um HV battery not charging built on or before September 22. Oh, they're having a lot of charging issue things. Are Mach E built on or before 25 July of 22 may experience an illuminated powertrain malfunction indicator with diagnostic trouble codes P1A3C, U316, U364, U304, and or U345 in the off-road charging controller OBCC module and or high voltage battery will not charge using a level 3 current DC fast charging station. Um, to correct the condition, reprogram the OBCC. Huh. So there's one charging issue. Okay, what are you? Why did it white screened me? There we go. Remind me on that the torque thing. I'm pretty sure it's. Let me just look real quick. It's gonna take me a second. I apologize. Let let me look for this gentleman real quick. Um, let's do a. I don't know. Let's just do like a 17. No, 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 no. I don't know what year you got, so I'm just gonna go with like a 17. 155 foot-pounds, James. Is it a transit 16? Okay, so 16,250. 16 transit. I'm pretty sure I'm close. It's like it's around 50, I want to say. Axle flange. Drive shaft. How about we just do rotor? We just type in rotor. Rotor. Wheel and tire removal. Hubs and bearings. This is in 20502B, so 20502B, rear drive axle, differential. I appreciate that, Tony. That means a lot to me, man. Thanks. I've been spending a lot of money on the channel lately, and it's hard to recoup a lot of it. So I appreciate any kind of help like that. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Removal and installation. Axle assembly. All right, here we go. It says the caliper bracket bolts, the main bracket bolts are 85 foot-pounds. It says the sensor that goes, ABS sensor, is 97 inch-pounds. Or no, the caliper bolts itself. What the heck is that? What did it say? Remove and discard the anchor plate bolts. Position and support the caliper aside. Torque 85 foot-pounds. That's a lot of weight to go into that or a lot of torque to go in that caliper. And then it says Remove and discard the anchor plate bolts. Position and support the caliper aside 129 foot-pounds. It's weird. 76 foot-pounds for the axle to pinion flange. $81 foot-pounds for the shock mounts, the bolts. Come on, give me what I'm looking for. It's not even what I'm looking for. Damn it. Why is it being such a pain right now? Brake system. I appreciate that, Wes. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It does it? Like I said, it helps. It does help. Brake system. Rear disc brakes. Removal and installation. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Brake disc. Axle shaft. Yeah, I know. It's rough because you feel like you're almost going to break the damn thing. Let's see here. Remove the wheel and tire. Mark the axle shaft flange to clock it with the hub before you remove it. Vehicles with rear single wheels, remove and discard the axle shaft bolts and remove the axle shaft. Remove and discard the axle bolts and remove the axle shaft. Da 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 da. Install a new O-ring. It says there's 3 steps to retorquing the axle shaft to hub bolts. Step 1 is 20 foot-pounds. Step 2 is 50 foot-pounds. And then stage 3 is 90 degrees. So stage 1 is 20. Stage 2 is 50. Stage 3 is 90 degrees, it says. Let me show you the picture real quick. And we are on a 16. Here's the flange bolts. It wants you to do it in that star pattern. And then here is the torque specs. 20 foot-pounds, 50 foot-pounds, and then 90 degrees. Morning, man. It says vehicles with dual rear wheels. 20 foot-pounds, 46 foot-pounds, and 90 degrees. So basically the same thing. All right, where are we at here? Yeah, no problem, Kev. I think when I did it, if I remember correctly, I put them at like 65 or 60 or 65 foot-pounds, and I torqued them to 65 foot-pounds, and I left them there because I felt like that extra little bit or whatever it was, it almost felt like it was going to break, like they were going to snap. Wes, I appreciate the super chat. Tony, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. Anybody that has Steve, I appreciate the super chat as well. Anybody that has shared anything, I think all the way back there was another super chat here. There it is, right there. Mark, I appreciate that. And Greg, again, I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. It helps take care of the finances and stuff here on the channel. I went out and bought another $175 worth of oil the other day. I bought like a quart, like all the O'Reilly brand stuff, all the Fram oil from Amalie stuff. I went out and got all the SuperTech stuff. And when you're buying these quarts individually, you know the SuperTech oil used to be like $2 or $3 a quart. Now that stuff is like $5.50 to $8 a quart. It is expensive. Aloha. If I never replace my rattling cam phasers in my 1735, what will happen? I'm priming the start, but still, will it break completely? It won't break completely. The rattle's always going to be there. It's going to eventually end up sounding like a diesel. It's going to have a real chuggy, like diesel-y knock type sound. Ford says it won't cause an issue. Their engineering department has released statements saying that it won't cause any long-term issues. That you can go with this through 2017 to 2020 rattle on startup, but I don't necessarily know that I completely believe that. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that one. Ford says no. Love. Oh, love. I see what you mean. I'm clocking this fella here, really. Happy holidays. Appreciate that, Lawrence. Um, have you ever interested in being a consultant for Ford? Actually, I think because of my health and stuff like that, because of my knees, I'd love to be a consultant for Ford right now. I would love that more than anything. Why does the seatbelt in my F-350 randomly lock up when I go to lean forward? Most annoying thing ever. 9 times out of 10 is because that mechanism, that latch and that spring-loaded assembly that keeps that tongue off of front seating, it's wore out and it's starting to droop. And every once in a while, it will get in the right spot when you go to lean forward and it'll lock it up. The assembly needs to be replaced. It's no good anymore. Happened in one of my Panthers, and it happened in the Dodge. It happens all the time. I have to replace them in the Super Duties and stuff all the time for that. Moose, how you doing? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I mean, I can't complain. My knee, I found out my left knee needs to be replaced, and uh, got a couple years being fat on the fat left knee, or lose weight and get 4 or 5 years out of it before it has to be replaced. So it's a rough time for me right now. Um, I still don't own a Ford. Only one I would consider is a F-250 diesel. Just a big fan of your knowledge and honesty. I appreciate that. The only one you would consider is an F-250 diesel? I'd have to say the only one that I'd really consider is maybe the new 6.8 that's coming out, or the 6.2. I don't really do enough to have a diesel or need a big 7.3 gasser. The 6.2 has been the tried and true longest running engine in that line that has never really left anybody stranded. It's always been easy fix, simple fixes and stuff with that. And the 6.2 has been, to me, the best overall platform in that truck so far. Well, James, I wish I could work something out with Ford to where I was one of their consultants or something like that, and then they'd get me off my feet in the shop, and then. But I don't know. I have a 17 Explorer NA 3.5. Anything I need to look out for? About to reach 80,000 miles. Yeah, right at about 100 to 120,000 miles, you might start seeing coolant along the front cover. So if you're at the passenger side, you follow the front cover of the engine down, because you know how it's transverse mounted. Right by the AC compressor, you might start to see a little coolant build up in that area eventually, and that's an indication that the water pump is starting to leak. And it's behind the front cover. It's about a $3,000 job. Chains, guide, water pump. And that's right at about 100, 120,000. I've seen people get up to about 175,000 before it starts to leak. You might want to consider right at about 120,000 just to have the job done. Um, Service the transfer case, the power transfer unit in that, at least by every 30,000 miles. Don't follow any of Ford's recommendations on that. I'm telling you right now, because you're going to bake that power transfer unit. It sits behind the engine by the transmission with a catalytic converter on top of it. And it sits there and just bakes that thing. And good luck if you ever have to do wheel bearings on that. You will hate your life. Go in my library, follow my video with wheel bearing removal of an Explorer, and I'll show you the best, fastest way to do it. It just so happens the day after I displayed that video, I think Eric O uh, ended up putting out the same video, kind of a coincidence, and he showed the same thing. So either on South Main Auto you can find it, or you can find it on my channel in the library on how to remove an Explorer hub bearing the best way. At 10-15 minutes you'll be done removing it. Other than that, solid vehicle, great vehicle. Absolutely love them. Think it's the best Explorer that's ever been made and the most comfortable riding. Even like it better than these new sportier looking Explorers. I like your body style the best by far. Trans fluid, make sure you stay on top of trans fluid and coolant in that. And meticulously, and when I tell you this right now, meticulously, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Michael Dempsey, I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to any of you with an Explorer. The Explorers and the Tauruses are notorious. The Edges too, but the Explorers and the Tauruses are notorious for the positive cable assembly on the batteries. Just going to shit. And you're talking an $800 harness and about 5 hours worth of work if you let a shop do it. When anytime you get a chance, like every couple oil changes, make sure those battery connections are clean. Just right now, when you get off of this live stream, go on Amazon, find battery terminal cleaner and protector. Every couple weeks, every couple oil changes, whatever you want to do, spray off those posts. Spray off the posts, keep it clean, and what ends up happening is that post on the positive side cracks around the plastic, and it lets that little acid seep up past it, and it gets on those connections, it rots those connections out. Now they do make a splice-in kit at AutoZone that you can cut that cable and splice in a new end when they do start to rot out. Instead of replacing the whole entire positive assembly, keep those battery posts super clean, or else you'll be spending about $1,500 to have that harness replaced if you don't do it. Just do it now, keep it clean, and then we don't have to have this conversation again. What major problems does the Fusion 2013 plus 2.5 liter have, and how often should EGR PCV be cleaned on this car? Much appreciated. You don't have to worry about EGR and PCV cleaning on that vehicle. Keep the oil changed, keep the coolant changed. That vehicle will take care of you. It is the best platform that Ford has ever put out with a 2.5 liter. They don't have engine problems really. They don't have trans problems really. Keep up on your maintenance, over maintenance everything. That car really did not have problems. That was the most solid platform that they have made in that body style. There was no other that's not even arguable. That is the most solid platform that they made in that Fusion body style. Keep up on the maintenance. Don't worry about the other stuff. It'll take care of you. 2003 Grand Marquis LSC, 2,200 original miles, always garage, original tires, no cracks. Are they still safe? No, they're not. You gotta change them out. They're not safe anymore. They weren't safe years ago. And if you were to sell that 2003 Grand Marquis with 2,200 original miles, how much do you want for it? I'm not saying I'm not interested, but maybe your boy's interested over here. Uncle is working on the debut of the new Explorer coming, focusing on the manufacturing of it and hoping it's better. And quality, double checking all of it with engineers. Oh, nice. As a food addict, I feel for you. Willing to pay for your time on a difficult 2019 F-150 10R80 issue. What's the best way to do this? I'm in Ohio. Purchase dealer, second dealer won't help due to no codes, but verify the issue. Message me on one of my other videos. Get off the live stream and go message me on another video and say, send me your email. I'll send it to you. He spent 3 months in Detroit. Nice. Bang thud on a 10R80 is typically CDF drum. CDF drum, the trans needs to be replaced, and the transmission needs to be gone through. Valve body's got to be cleaned out. CDF drum needs to be replaced with the sleeve slides in it, and it exposes one of the oil passages, and it causes it to slam and have an elongated in gear and out of gear situation. So the CDF drum is it's more than likely bad in that thing. Thoughts on wheel spacers, hub centric, and the ones that have separate studs. I don't know. I really don't like that stuff. You change the dynamics of the vehicle. It may make things look cool. I'm just not a huge fan of them. I mean, I see their purpose, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm probably not the guy to ask that question because I'm very biased. Any info on the edge escape block crack issue? I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, I have a whole channel full of hours and hours and hours and hours, and we just spent about 10 minutes earlier talking about that issue. Sorry. Yeah. If you want to be educated on that block, then go through my channel library and just start watching it. There's hours of video content on that block. See you, Chris. Have fun. Um, Anasazi, am I saying that right? They did do an extension on some of those 1.5 liters. They extended them out to 7 years, 84,000 mile coverage, but you have to make sure your vehicle has that as an extension on it. Um, Basically, the updated design is a closed deck versus the old open deck. So the new block it basically is just regasketed, all the same oil pump, same everything put back on with just all new gaskets. You just get a lower end and you get new coolant and stuff like that. So same head is used, everything's used. The only thing that they did was change from a slit in between the cylinders to a closed portion with just a pinhole. That's the only difference. It's used to be called open deck, and now it's a closed deck design. Uh, so you have an 18 Edge. You have you got a long block in yours. You didn't get a short block. Um, so you had to pay for the whole engine in yours. They typically don't do short blocks in the 2.0 liter Edge EcoBoost. They just replace the whole entire engine with the updated block already installed. So if correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't just pay for a block with yours, you got a whole entire engine. And then listen to this. And then after that was fixed with the 2017 2018 Edge in 2019, they still had coolant intrusion. I don't know. Uh, if they did a block, then then did it cost you like 10 grand for the entire job? If it cost you like 10 grand for the entire job, you got like a whole engine. But if it was more like 5 grand, 6 grand, then probably just a short block. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe they did a short block in yours. You have a 2.0 liter EcoBoost, right? Yeah. I can't believe they did a short block. They should have just did a whole engine. But if you got the new updated block, hopefully they put the new updated block in there. It basically same as the 1.5 liter. So if you go watch my 1.5 liter videos and the escapes and fusions, then you'll see the edge is a little bit different. It only was affected a couple years, 17 and 18. And then in 19, what ended up happening is you would get coolant intrusion, but it wasn't coolant intrusion. You were losing coolant and you didn't see leaks out anywhere else. Basically, they stuck the EGR cooler on the backside of the engine and they ported an EGR tube over into the integrated exhaust manifold in the head because the exhaust manifold's made into the head. And where that port would go into the head, where the exhaust would flow out, it would dump coolant past the inside of the cooler into that channel and then dump over into the cylinder head and then pumping out the exhaust system would it would billow white clouds of smoke and everything else. You'd be losing coolant like crazy. And they created an SSM or TSB for that you needed to replace the cooler assembly. Well, guys were confused and they were replacing engines saying that it's coolant intrusion on the 19 model. And that wasn't the case. The 19 model was already updated. It was the EGR cooler leaking into the exhaust port, and they were thinking that it was coolant intrusion. So they're replacing these engines and then putting the same EGR coolers back on the new engines, and the same thing was happening. And Ford's like, wait. You guys are doing this all wrong. You're not diagnosing it. You're just throwing an engine at it because of the previous models when it was the EGR cooler cracking internally and letting the coolant escape and get into the exhaust manifold that would then fill up the exhaust system. 2019 Ford, 2009, 2015, or Ford F-150 2009 blower motor has power and works. Resistor works, yet the blower fan won't turn. Then you got something bound up inside that assembly. Aiden, they need to. They need to extend the coverage on all of those engines. I would hope that you guys could submit if a class action lawsuit or anything ever got passed against Ford on these EcoBoost coolant intrusion issues, that you guys would get all your money back that you paid to have it fixed. As fun of my dad's 21 F-150 5.0 is to drive with the 10-speed, I think I'm going to look for a 2015 to 17 with low miles 302A 373. Michael, you got it right. That's the best package. '17 F-150 has a grinding sound when accelerating and engine is cold. Goes away when warm. Sounds like coming from front end. Thoughts? Grinding sound when accelerating. Exhaust. There's an exhaust clamp that comes loose on those, and when accelerating, it makes a rattling, grinding sound. Maybe like more like not a grinding sound. Grinding sound when accelerating. Oh, rear end. Brake shield rubbing on the rotor, or dust shield rubbing on the rotor, or something on the something on the exhaust vibrating. I know under the driver's seat on your truck, where the exhaust comes off of the engine and it crosses over, there's a clamp that breaks right there, and it sits and vibrates on the shield, and it breaks on your truck all the time. And we just put a big hose clamp around it when it's new Ford Ranger. Yeah, it's pretty reliable. Very little issues. Early models like the 2020 model, 2019 model, had issues with the HVAC box making clicking, tapping sounds, and then it would start to malfunction. So we'd have to pull the dash out of them and split the box and put a newer upper plenum on them. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Check their IWE hubs on the accelerating hubs grinding sound. Check the IWE hubs for sure. Here's an issue with that though. Here's how you can hmm. It's not really a grinding sound though on the IWEs. It's a chattering sound. It's different. It all depends on explaining the sound means everything. IWEs don't really grind, they chatter. So that's where I would be lost with that. But if you wanted to, you could go out to the engine bay, find the vacuum line right up in the corner on the driver's side. There's a little solenoid. It's got two vacuum lines going to it. You could unplug, no, not unplug, the vacuum line that goes down to like where the wheels are. One comes from your vacuum source and plugs into the bottom, and then there's another vacuum line that goes over and it goes down to the wheels. The one that goes down to the wheels, if you unplug that and then take a little cap and cap off the vacuum port where it went and then go on a test drive, that will front seat your IWEs. It will lock them in, and the front end will be rotating together and the drive shaft will be rotating, but the four-wheel drive won't be engaged. And if the sound goes away, then the integrated wheel ends, the wheel hub ends for the four-wheel drive actuators are the problem. If the sound doesn't go away, then put everything back the way that you had it. And that's a tip for you guys. If you're trying to lock your IWEs in and you don't want to buy a Dorman lockout kit, all you got to do is pull that line and plug off that vacuum port, and now you've front seated your IWEs and you locked them out, and you're going to lose a little fuel mileage. You're going to get a little bit more tire wear and stuff, very minimal. But now you've locked out your IWEs and you don't ever have to worry about that chattering problem again. And when you put it in four-wheel drive, all you're waiting for is the transfer case to engage because everything else is already there engaged. Just food for thought for those of you that have IWE chattering problems. That's a quick way to diagnose that. Have you ever worked at any other dealerships than Ford? I'm a Ford fan, so I feel that's where I need to work. I have. I worked at a Chevy dealer down in Arkansas as well. Um, didn't really like it there. I worked in a body shop a little bit as well. My other experience is with Peterbilt and international trucking, so outside of the automotive field. 2016 F-150 3.5 NA expansion valve. The OE Motorcraft 1 comes with the aluminum mounting plate. Is it necessary to replace it, or can I leave it alone? Any harm if I leave it alone? Typically, no. Typically, you can just replace the expansion valve only. Um, I've done that. I've just put new O-rings and seals and stuff on there, just replace the expansion valve and bolt it back down and been completely fine, as long as it passes a vacuum test. What I found on a few of those F-150s, though, is the way it mounts to the plate, sometimes it leaks. So when you're done and you got dye and stuff in the system, take like a long screwdriver or pry bar or like one of your thin trim tools and put back in there and pull that foam away from the expansion valve and make sure nothing's leaking around it when you put the new one on. It should be fine though. How has the 7.3 gas motor turned out from a mechanic's point of view? Easy engine to work on, very simple, very, very mod friendly. It's just a basic version of an LS, but blown up. So the potential to make power is unreal. There's a team running 98 millimeter turbos on it, making 4,000 horsepower in one of their drag cars. So a very, very, it's just a giant version of an LS. Um, we've already seen multiple, and I'm talking plenty of them at 35, 40,000 miles where it's having lifter issues and camshaft issues because of the way either the lifters are being made or the camshafts are being made. But basically, it's the same thing as an LS, except it's in a Ford. And it's the same manifold, same lifters, same push rods, same rockers, same camshaft and cam design and how everything's run. Everything's the same, just bigger. So what does it say? I saw a video about your wheel lug caps not fitting the one piece lug nut. Does anyone aftermarket happen to make a center cap that fits? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I haven't even got back around to it. Yeah, I use Santec as well. No problem there. 2019 Edge ST 78,000 miles. Just got an all-wheel drive malfunction on the dash. Any ideas? The lights and everything went away after getting a car wash. Thanks for everything you do. Oh, yeah. I mean, you could start. You might be seeing the early signs of PTU issues, transfer case failure. It all depends on how that vehicle's been serviced and that transfer case has been serviced. I'd try to go get the codes checked and see what the history codes are so we can better assist you with what you're dealing with. Last question about 2017 F-150 3.5 liter. The dealer wants to replace my oil pan along with cam phasers, timing chain and tensioners, but want 1,500 just for the oil pan. It doesn't leak any oil. Well, you got to think about it this way. It doesn't leak any oil yet. Well, then there's no reason to replace it. Just because you're doing phasers doesn't mean you have to do an oil pan. So I don't know what they're talking about there. Phasers don't require oil pan replacement. Let's just put it that way. Gen 135 is good. I've got 150,000. Oh, yeah. Sending an email to your Gmail from another time. Hope you still use it. Steve, just wait, comment on one of my other videos asking for my email, and let me send you the right one because one of them I don't even get on anymore. I get a lot of answers for this, but I want your opinion. I have a 2018 Fusion 2.5. What kind of oil you recommend I should use? I've been using Motorcraft semi-synthetic. Semi-synthetic is fine in that. 5W30 semi-synthetic I would typically run. I wouldn't run the 520. But that's just me. 5W30, 5W20, or I think even 0W20 or 0W30, depending on the climate. Do they make 0W30? Is appropriate for that vehicle. But if it was me, I'd run 5W30 semi-synthetic and I'd let it be. It's fine. It's just an easy, great running vehicle in general. So uh, it's the most reliable package Ford has created in the Fusion. So don't change anything about what you're doing. Just keep it changed and don't overdo the oil, or don't go too long on the 5,000 miles max on that oil. Maybe 4,000 miles max because it is a semi-synthetic. It's up to you, and don't go any longer than that. They said all oil pans go bad on the 2017 F-150. They they may be right, but yours hasn't gone bad yet, so there's no reason to charge you for that. Oil weight recommended for a 1750 F-150. Well, if you pull out your owner's manual, you'll see that 5W20 and 5W30 are both okay options to run in that. You do not have to run the weight on the oil cap, which is a 5W20. 5W30 is also acceptable. I like running 5W30 in my 5 liter. I will not run 5W20 in any of my vehicles anymore. 5W30 seems to be a little quieter and provides a little bit of that buffer from the extra noise. So that's where I'm at with that. All right, guys, this is a good time for us to jump off here. We've been on here 2 hours now. I appreciate all the donations. You guys have been awesome, and I hope I've helped somebody here. If you're a commenter in the future and you see this video after it's been loaded, please leave me a message and let me know that you've seen it after the stream was over. I appreciate you, as always. Happy holidays to you, and be blessed to your families, to your loved ones, your friends, everything. Remember, this is a time of depression right now as well. Everybody thinks of the holidays as a happy-go-lucky time, but it's really not. A lot of times, people during the holidays are depressed, and these times are the worst for them. So if you know somebody that hasn't been reached out to, if you can think of somebody, a friend, a family member, whatever it may be, call them up. Tell them you're thinking about them, that you love them, you care about them, and check on them. Because this is a rough time for a lot of people right now. A lot of people that act happy during the holidays and these seasons are actually some of the most miserable people with whatever is going on in their life. Reach out to them and check on them. Thanks, guys. Be blessed. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays.